Hello everyone, my name is Marc Philipp. I'm a partner and managing director with Carney's Global Healthcare and Life Sciences practice, and I would like to welcome you today to our new episode of Practitioners' Voices, an interview series with distinguished guests from the biopharma industry about strategy and transformation in drug discovery and development. Together with my colleague Kürzdörfer, we would like to welcome two guests today. On the one hand, we have Matthias Meergans.
Hello.
Matthias is the managing director at VfA, Verband Forschender Arzneimittelhersteller, the German industry association of the research-based pharmaceutical firms in Germany.
Yes, happy to be with you. Yes.
Thank you. And over there we have Michael May. Michael is medical director at BMS Germany. Very excited to be with you today.
Likewise, hello.
Perfect. Super. Thanks for being here. I think what we would like to discuss a little bit with you today is a broader view on Germany as one of the key markets for pharmaceutical, for the global pharmaceutical industry in general. And if I can start with you, Matthias, I know that you've been having had responsibilities in multiple different countries over the years. And as I recall, just returned from Middle East out of Dubai. So you have seen a lot of different market environments. And when you look into research and development more specifically, any observations on Germany as a market to do discovery work and drug development?
Yeah, let's focus on that part. When it comes to transition into the more clinical phases, then we are struggling, and there's a kind of valley of death. So especially smaller companies struggle to survive that period, which is labor intense, costly, and let's say, yeah, for transition, not so easy to reach the final steps into registration. So we are behind, and one specific aspect is also the clinical research, which requires, we'll come to that part, requires a more interplay of the stakeholders. And we are very fragmented and definitely lack some initiatives here.
Super, thank you so much, Matthias. And actually, in a recent study that both VfA and Carney have published together, we have actually surveyed a couple of executives from the R&D space. And they actually confirmed quite a lot of things that you shared. And what was the most striking was that almost 70% actually had a negative outlook and said for their respective companies, they have the expectation that Germany as a market for innovation would be less important. So Michael, we would be very interested from your industry perspective. So what is your personal view on the one hand side? Because as medical director, you are quite close to the German market, of course. But then also looking at the international headquarters, what is their perspective on Germany?
Thank you for the question. From my personal perspective, Germany is really a good place for investments in research. So why is this the case? When I look at different pharmaceutical companies around the world, for most of them, Germany is the second largest market. Firstly. Secondly, I would say, in Germany we have really a very good healthcare infrastructure. So we have well-educated staff, both either in pharmaceutical industry or also in the academic scene, which I would say is almost unique if I look across the globe. In addition of that, I would like to also say when you invest in Germany, you have reimbursement from the first day onwards. This is only the case in a few countries across the world. And secondly, still for the first 6 months, we have free pricing. So taking this all together, it makes from my perspective an attractive place. Also having in mind, that 80% of 21 pharmaceutical companies have research facilities in our country. So it's a little bit context for you. On the other hand, I must also say, and this brings me back to the heart of your question, is that we're still facing more and more competition in Germany, especially if I look to the United States of America, to China or other countries in Asia. And, This is not only specifically a case for Germany. I would say it is in particular a case for Germany, but it's more or less all the situation we are facing across Europe. And looking back to fall last year, where the new Statutory Health Insurance Stabilization Financial Act has passed the German Bundestag. I would say this is not a signal in the right direction for investing in research and in innovation in Germany. So I think for research we definitely need the right or good framework conditions. It is important that spend in health is not considered to be as just generating costs. We should really see that also in an investment in research and in innovation, to really see this more as adding value to our society and to the health system, and not only discussing on costs. But what I have heard from one of the last interviews of our German Health Minister, Professor Lauterbach, I'm pretty optimistic that he has also realized this, because in one of his statements he has really expressed that he sees the value the pharmaceutical industry is bringing in Germany in terms of innovation.
Michael, let me pick up on some of the things that you've mentioned, zooming a little bit more into clinical research and things that are obviously of particular interest for R&D executives. So what we found in that study, extrapolating those trends, was that up to 40,000 patients could be affected by not being able to participate in clinical trials anymore, right? So we see a continuous trend of declining number of patients, declining number of clinical trials already, and this trend could worsen if we are not changing anything. So Matthias, I think in your role you probably have quite a lot of also exchange with other European and international associations and pharma companies around their kind of perspective on clinical research in their countries. Is there any particular, let's say, examples that you have in mind of particular other countries that do this better, that offer greater or improved clinical research frames and infrastructure?
I think our ambition is to be number one in Europe. And over the years, we've been overtaken in, let's say, terms of studies per country by Spain, by UK. But if you look at study participation per 1 million inhabitants, for instance, we are even in the lower segment. Yeah? So it's smaller countries are much better. Yeah? And this is not where we want to be. I think Spain especially, they had a very good integrated approach across, let's say, the players. And they formed a kind of national strategy to overcome unnecessary bureaucracy, for instance. One part is a typical argument is we have the federal system with so many different data protection situations, or take, let's say, the contract clauses, the contract templates, they are super fragmented in Germany. Why not going for a central solution? Let's say there's one binding central template for a contract, and that would speed up, let's say, things. In France, they've gone, let's say, one step further. They also, let's say, regulated the fees, the honoraria, in a study. So that's, let's say, non-negotiable. That's top down. We would not go in that direction too far, but also showing that, let's say, national improvements or steps that integrate the players much more are helpful to speed up and overcome this bureaucracy, which is unnecessary. Yeah.
So from your perspective, Michael, and maybe also Matthias to add, what are the things now that really need to happen to bring Germany back in Europe to number one?
From my perspective, and what we have also learned from our study across representatives from the pharmaceutical industry in Germany, there are three main topics we have to focus on. And the first one is, and it's on speed. The second topic I would like to mention, is on data availability and data usage. And last but not least, I would like to mention, despite the fact that we have made in some counties already progress, I think we could improve our research and development ecosystem in Germany and also have a stronger focus on translation between basic research and clinical research.
Let me understand that a little bit better. So you mentioned 2 points, actually one around data availability, the second one around translation from early into clinical research. So what kind of follows from that, and one follow-up question would be, does this mean that actually when it comes to novel therapies, right? So for example, also topics like cell and gene therapies, which are on top of everybody's mind, does this mean we are actually kind of losing especially on these? And would it make sense, second question, to actually kind of sharpen the profile of Germany and focus on a couple of things more specifically?
To answer your first question, I think we had a tough start, not only in Germany, also in whole of Europe, when first trials on CAR T-cell technology were submitted or were made available for the doctors. So most of these trials did run either in the United States or in Asia. But in the meantime, we learned a lot, and I think we are doing this much more better now. And this is definitely a new technology which is of high interest for our clinical sites and also for our doctors, and we should definitely be part of this kind of development, and also for the next generation of products going in this direction. To answer your second question, this is a clearly no from my perspective. I would say in Germany we have to be part of every new development. Because, you know, for several reasons, as Matthias already pointed out in his last answer, is, you know, I think I do see this as an obligation from our side to be able to make patients and doctors new technology available from the very beginning onwards and not later on. And this always starts in phase 1 or phase 2A from my perspective. So I think Germany should be part of all of these new developments.
So, reflecting on what we just heard, I think it's very obvious that the pharma market in Germany is too important to ignore, both from a commercial perspective, but also from a research and development perspective. And at the same time, when we look at the results of our joint study, which identified more than 20 different levers that could be changed in order to improve the status and the environment for pharma companies trying to do state-of-the-art research in Germany. These 20 levers are all pretty well known and thought through, right? Everyone is kind of aware about the major hurdles in bureaucracy, speed, data, etc. And still, we see this decline in studies, we see the decline in our competitiveness. So in order to change that, Matthias, what do you think should be done differently this time in order to address and truly move ahead with Germany?
That's a great question, Marc. I think we don't have an issue of evidence. It's rather the implementation. And the topics we have selected and now prioritized, they require a dialogue, definitely a multi-stakeholder approach. It's not one singular aspect that is lacking or we are struggling with. So that's why we need this platform of exchange, of dialogue. We see good examples on county level. I think Bavaria is one, Hessia, Baden-Württemberg and others. So it's possible to create that momentum. But it's lacking on the federal level, on Germany entire. So and that's why we have to build a round table, like a dialogue format, to prioritize and form the packages. The good news is that many of them don't require large amounts of budget. So it's more on the regulatory aspects. If we, let's say, take the example of more binding contract templates, for instance, that would help to speed up and not give every time a new, let's say, ethical judgment. So that's one aspect, or the data protection, heterogeneity among the 17 institutions. So here we can, I think, definitely speed up, and I think this dialogue format is definitely a concrete way to tackle it. Over the last weeks, we have had one-on-one conversations with, let's say, the interesting players and actors here. And the good news is they are very interested and definitely will support this initiative, and are willing to contribute and be part of it. So that will be our next step to form this alliance and then move ahead here.
Just to add one small comment from my end, I'm fully supportive on the holistic approach Matthias has mentioned. Just would like to add some sense of urgency to the discussion, because as we have heard, there are blueprints available in other countries, especially when I'm looking to Spain. Spain was in a similar situation than we were 15 years ago, and now they are the country in Europe with the most number of clinical trials. So I think, don't lose so much time. We should bring all relevant stakeholders together, have a fruitful discussion, and taking into consideration what we can learn from other countries, and then move forward.
Perfect.
Now, we've heard there is a lot of momentum, which is of course great. We also heard that many of the initiatives and the fields of action will not require much budget necessarily. But what they most probably will require is time, right? Because we heard there are quite big topics around bureaucracy, data access, but also around translation, strengthening of the ecosystem. So I'm wondering, in the meantime, what can actually pharma companies do in the context of research and clinical research to embed excellence in the meantime?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. So I think we can do a lot in the meantime. And firstly, we should continue to do our homework. What does it mean? We should concentrate on execution. On execution, the commitment we have given in terms to classical milestones in clinical research, which means number of sites, number of patients, enrollment of them in a committed time frame. This is first one. And of course, second one, and this is one of our traditional strengths, usually we are very good in the quality we are delivering in clinical trials. We should continue to do so, because other countries really are doing as well in providing a good quality to clinical research. Apart from that, I would also say, let's increase the networking. Let's build up a closer network between Center of Excellence and also basic research institutions to really strengthen what we have said before, the translation between them. We can learn from them and can and should also make companies sitting across the world aware on that Germany is really doing well, especially in when it comes to phase 1 trials, so first in human trials, that we are interested in and that we can deliver, although in doing research in very early stage of clinical development. And I think sometimes it would be good to make a little bit more noise here, because we really have also very good phase 1 units in Germany. And last but not least, I would also say that within pharmaceutical companies, we maybe should learn to work a little bit more cross-functionally. Usually clinical research is done by clinical operations. I think it would be worthwhile also to involve other departments, for example, what we call medical science liaisons, medical departments, maybe also departments more active in analytics, in clinical trial conduct, in selection of clinical study sites to make it more impactful. So this is what we could be done immediately, and also to closing the circle a little bit on the discussion we had about the contracts. That is nothing here what would stop us to work on that, to improve the time between when a contract was delivered to a study site to remove the time for the signature.
Very thankful for your comments, Michael, on some of the hurdles that pharma companies can attack individually. I think when we talk to clinical development executives, there's a lot of basics that can be done better with respect to more data-driven patient identification, site selection, study feasibility in a more modern way, because obviously some of the basics have not changed for the last 20, 30 years, but the technology is there now to identify patients faster and to give them a better experience. And also the commercial side of pharma companies are typically much better in creating patient experiences that we tend to forget a little bit when it comes to clinical research. But also principal investigators and patients ultimately want to have a good experience about participating in a trial in the best possible way. So thank you both of you for being here. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having had the opportunity to do that study together. I think it is certainly the fact base required to take it further, but there's a lot of now momentum required to bring this really home. And in parallel, if pharma companies are working on their own agenda to become more excellent in clinical development, I think we can bring even more innovation to patients faster. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks also to you, Marc and Pia, not only for the interview, but also for the good collaboration and partnership through this project. I think it was excellent and very professionally managed. Thanks.
Yeah, I would like to echo Matthias' comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.